Welcome to the Beyond Atheism podcast, with me, Nathan Alexander, and my co-host, Todd Tavares. This podcast moves beyond questions of God's existence to ask, what's next in a godless world? If you're enjoying the show so far, remember to like and subscribe, rate and review, and consider supporting us on Patreon. Beyond Atheism is produced and distributed by Atheist United Studios.
Hey Nathan, guess what? It's election season down here in the States. We've got yard signs coming up, horrible commercials every 20 minutes. It's endless. So today, let's reach out, talk to someone who's got some skin in the game and can tell us what it's like to be a secular activist for a political party. Today, we are joined by Rachele Walter, a secular activist in Lincoln, Nebraska. She is the current vice chair of Secular Democrats of Nebraska. Secular Democrats of Nebraska is a caucus that assists secular candidates and candidates looking to uphold the strict separation of church and state. This is only the second secular caucus voted into a state party after Texas joined one in 2016. In addition to her work in electoral politics, Rachele serves as the President of Lincoln Atheists and is the Nebraska State Director for American Atheists. She also fosters for a local animal rescue and has helped nearly 30 animals find their forever homes. She's adopted 3 Chihuahuas and 3 long-haired cats. Rachele, welcome to Beyond Atheism.
Yes. Thank you. Such a fan.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I'm
Awesome.
3 Chihuahuas. You must be a fan of Chihuahuas as well. What are their names?
Well, so Pippa is a Chihuahua Australian cattle dog mix. So that's an odd mixture. And then Ruthie is a Chihuahua Dachshund mix that she was a retired breeder, and she came to stay with me and never left. And then Oswin is a purebred long-haired Chihuahua that was a rescue. Nobody claimed him. He was a stray dog. No one claimed him. I got him, and that's how I wound up with 3 Chihuahuas. If you'd asked me 10 years ago if I would ever have a Chihuahua, I had a Chow Chow and a Wolf mix. So no. And now I'm like, no, I just like the little ones I can put in my purse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't have a good segue. Well, I wanted to ask, I don't want to ask any softball questions here, so I have a really tough one for you to get things rolling. I want to know, who is your favorite Republican politician?
That's easy, actually.
Oh, it's easy. Okay.
His name is John McCollister. He's a Republican here in Nebraska. He is term limited in his district, but he has stood for everything that is good about politics. He is without a doubt one of the most thoughtful and well-respected politicians in the region. And anytime I have had to testify in front of the state legislature, he has always had really great questions and always voted on the side that was right, as far as I'm concerned. I do have a favorite Republican politician.
Okay.
Wow.
I thought that was going to be difficult, but apparently it wasn't. Okay.
Now, so Rachele, what do you mean when you say like he voted on the right side? What are the issues and things that you guys are looking at?
So here in Nebraska, we have a very unique legislature. We only have one house, so we're called the unicameral. We only have state senators. So we are able to get things through much more quickly, but we also have a large portion of the state that is playing politics. Instead of trying to do what's best and what's right for the people of Nebraska, they're trying to do what's best or what's right for their party to keep their party in power, not necessarily doing it based on getting the right kind of votes or the right kind of attention, but they're doing it in a way they gerrymander, that's the big part. And what he has always done is he has always been, let's vote for the things that are best for the majority of Nebraskans, not just for the people who donate to me, not just for those in my district, even though that's who I represent. I want to benefit all Nebraskans. And so when I say that he does what's right, he really put himself on the line on many issues. He voted with Megan Hunt to stop the abortion trigger ban. Last election cycle, he actually campaigned for the Democrat running rather than the Republican running. Yeah, he really put I'm going to say this, he really put his soul in there. He really believes in what he does, and he did what was best for the state and not necessarily what was best for him. And that's why I respect him just so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm here in Canada, and I really don't know too much about Nebraska. Maybe you can tell me what is, I mean, I think it leans Republican is my idea, but I'm not sure. Maybe you can just give us the sort of the landscape politically and religiously potentially too in Nebraska.
Sure thing. So Nebraska is actually, we were a purple state. And when it comes to
Mm.
electoral politics, so as you know, we have the electoral system where we each donate, we have all these. We're one of two states that can split. So we
Oh,
can
okay, right,
have,
right.
yeah, so we
Mm.
can, this last election, we had the blue dot, which was Omaha, and that went for Biden. Had our district not been gerrymandered, we would have had, Lincoln is called the rainbow dot in the state. We have 3 of our 7 elected council people are all LGBTQIA2S plus. So we're called the rainbow dot. Omaha went blue. But when it comes to Nebraska, we are a purple state. We just have had leadership that has turned us into a red state by splitting districts in such a way that the blue portion is not heard as much as it should be. And that has been something we really want to work on. When it comes to religious makeup, from what I've seen since I've started this work with the secular Dems, is we have a lot of people that from all age groups that are very, very strong about the strict separation of church and state.
So, Rachel, I'm curious as to what came first. You've already laid out for us sort of like where some of your politics are, right? What drives this? Were you driven by being a secularist to become active in politics, or did being a Democrat, being someone in a blue dot, move you to work for a secularism? Which way did it go? Did your politics drive you to secularism, or did secularism drive you to politics?
I'll be honest, they've been intertwined my whole life. I never grew up with faith tradition. My mom let us go to church if we wanted to, but it was never something that was pushed on us. We were always allowed to try different things and read books, and we could discuss the books, and it was just a very secular upbringing. But we were also very involved in politics. In 1984, when Geraldine Ferrara was the vice presidential candidate, it blew my mind that a woman could be president. And when Mike Dukakis ran, my mom was very involved in the campaign. And so it's always been a part of my life. It's never not been. What really fired me up was when I found out how many people identify as non-religious in Congress. And, out of 550,000 elected positions in the country, we had less than 100. And that really lit a fire under me, because I saw the way the country was going. I saw how religion was so intertwined in politics and in government, and I could see the writing on the wall, and I had to do something. I couldn't just vote anymore. I had to be a part of the process and make it known that we are a huge part of this constituency. When you look at percentages, like Ryan Burge does great work, and when you look at self-identified nuns, we are, 42% of the Democratic registered Democrats, And when you look at Republicans, it's 1 in 5. And so it's just shocking to me that we're not a louder voice in this.
Well, this leads me to another question then, is that like, what made that the important issue for you? Like that identification with like that we are so underrepresented? Because there are lots of things that it could have been instead, but is there something about the being an atheist, being godless, that caused you to gravitate towards we need to be better represented? This aspect is the thing that needs to be amplified and shown to the world.
It was watching the laws and seeing things like these anti-trans bills, when watching people fight for the right to marry, for LGBTQIA equality, for just seeing these abortion laws continue to chip away. You know, I worked for Planned Parenthood in the early 2000s and late 90s. And we were afraid then, and it's gotten so much worse since then. Watching Hobby Lobby win this thing where we don't want to pay for your birth control, but we won't pull our stock from companies that provide abortion services, or provide abortion pills. Like their stocks are all the way up in pharmaceuticals. So seeing the hypocrisy, and like I said, I saw where it was going. I saw that if we didn't do something.
Yeah. It sounds like you saw that it was where it was coming from as well, that it's coming from religion in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how did you start getting involved in secular activism? Or like what was your first kind of entry point into that?
Well, I started out with Lincoln Atheists. I've always considered myself, whatever, not a nun up until I really locked down on this. And Lincoln Atheists reached out to me because I had just moved back to Nebraska from New Jersey. They asked me if I wanted to join the board. So I did. And from there, it just, I got more involved in different things. I got to see things from a different perspective. And then the person who started Secular Democrats of Nebraska reached out to me, and he said, I'm going to be running for office. I can't be the chair of the caucus anymore. How would you like to do it? And so we talked. I learned all about it. And, I said, yeah, I can do that. And he goes, and how would you like to be my associate chair for the state right. American Atheists? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I can do that. And, now I'm very active. I love what I do. I love doing the outreach. That's why I stepped it back as the chair of the caucus, because I really wanted to focus on the outreach and let somebody else deal with the party, right. So that I can focus on what I'm doing here, help write policy, help write platform changes. But really what I want to do is I want to be more able to speak, to go on different things, to write articles, to go in front of the legislature and have myself prepared instead of thinking, okay, well, how is this going to affect what we're doing in the party?
Rachel, can you take us inside the caucus? This is something very mysterious to us. Party as like a box kind of makes sense, right? There are people who are members of the party and they choose who their candidates and so on and so forth. But it is just sort of like a black box. What is a caucus inside the party? How does it fit into the party apparatus? And like, what is there? I'm not quite sure. Like, what is a caucus? I guess is the best place to start.
Yeah.
So think about it as we are a sub-identity or a micro label within the party. So we have Black Caucus, Latino Caucus, Native Caucus, Military Families Caucus, Women's Caucus, Disabilities Caucus. Oh, and of course there's the Stonewall Democrats, the LGBTQI. And our job is to make sure that the party really knows what is important to us and upholds the values that are important. So Secular Democrats is one of the most intersectional. I mean, just secularism in general is one of the most intersectional groups that you can have. There's no age, no gender, no sexuality, no race, no creed, no ability, everybody is included. Nobody is excluded. Except that as secular Democrats, we do exclude Republicans.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, yes.
But we invite people of all faith traditions as long as you want to see that separation of church and state. And we have former members of everything. So our constituency and what we believe intersects a lot with all these other groups. So we might write a platform resolution for inclusivity for those who are disabled because it affects our constituents. And what we're doing is we're just making sure that nothing is passed that is outside the realm. We would never say, yeah, we're all on board for a day of prayer. No.
Right.
If that party is proposing that, we are not on board with that. And luckily our party doesn't do that. But there are always going to be conflict. And so you also have to compromise and to listen to the other side and understand that, especially with religion, there is a personal response to it. So if you say, I don't want prayer, people feel that like a personal attack. In some ways, more so than they do if it's a different identity that you're saying you're not okay with. Because religion is indoctrinated, and for a lot of people, the only acceptance that they got from their other is because of their religion. So you may be of a different ethnicity, and you didn't have acceptance for being that ethnicity, but because you went to the same church, they accepted you for that. And so I understand that, and I really try to take that into account when I'm bringing things up, because it is so personal. And for a lot of people who are already marginalized, it is the only thing that kept them as part of the whole instead of being othered.
Yeah. But they don't, it sounds like you guys don't have religious caucuses in there. Is that correct?
There's an interfaith caucus. And what's funny is I've spoken with many members, and there are a lot of atheist members in the interfaith caucus, just like in the DNC. Sarah Levin is one of the co-chairs of the DNC Interfaith Caucus. So we are hoping someday to have a secular caucus in the DNC.
Does the secular caucus have much sway within the party, would you say? Or, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll just leave it at that, yeah.
That's a complicated question. Yes and no. We are known. We are well known.
Right.
But we're not always known for the right things. Like, there are people who
Okay.
who have, twisted the things that we've said because, again, it's a personal issue. But I would say that we're getting there. I would say that with the work we've been doing, showing how much we really are helping candidates, like, we don't have the funding to put up billboards or to put out postcards, but we have the manpower. And I myself have written almost 200 postcards this election, and I have another 150 sitting here for me to do before November 8th. Hopefully I'll get them done the next 2 weeks. But we are trying everything we can to help those that we know are, if not secular, they are at least trying to keep that separation of church and state and prevent the encroachment of religion from further invading our politics here in Nebraska.
So is that mostly, when you think about secular Democrats, one of the things we've run into in this podcast, and we've discovered as kind of a general issue, is secular is a great word that people love to use, but it gets kind of watery at times. It can mean a lot of different things. In some cases, it means like a very hard. It can mean everything between like militant atheism to accommodation, where you just allow religious groups total separation, do whatever the hell they want, and as long as they don't take state money, that's fine. Where do secular Democrats have a sort of guiding principle as to what is secular and what secularism should look like? Have you ever made it explicit, like what your position is?
Our position when it comes to politics is secular is the separation of church and state. We want the government to be without religion. That does not mean that religion does not exist. It's just in this space, it does not have a place. So I liken it to a public library or a park. those are secular spaces. Anybody of any faith can go. If you want to pray, you can do it on your own. But if the librarian tells you before you can check out this book, you have to make an offering to Thor, let's revisit that. So that's how I want our government. I don't want there to be a chaplain making a invocation. I don't want there to be moments of silence that are really only there to take the place of a Christian prayer, because Christians pray in silence. Other religions don't necessarily do that. I don't want my politicians invoking God when Beto O'Rourke said, be kind to each other, and said, God bless America or God bless Texas. I cannot tell you how many of us were on there going, did you see that? Did you see that we were finally included? By not explicitly saying God or in God we trust or whatever you want to say, we were finally included. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. When our politicians are constantly speaking on a higher power and God bless the military and God bless this and bless God, whatever, it's really a turnoff because you're saying accept you.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so what are some of the things that you've been trying to get into the party platform then that reflect this?
So we actually have had some success. We did put in there that there would be no promotion of religion, but we also work with a lot of candidates and the county parties, and I've helped them change their language. It's just minor changes, changing from freedom of religion to freedom of and freedom from religion. Minor change, not a big deal, but it changes everything for a secular person. When you say those of faith and those of no faith, when you're talking about it, because those of faith are often rejected. Here in Nebraska, I have multiple times reached out to leaders and said, this is not appropriate for you to be going to a prayer breakfast because it's not even interfaith, it's interdenominational. So you're only supporting one religious tradition, and you're not going out to secular groups. And they're like, I don't know of any secular groups. I'm like, yeah, I know, because nobody has come and talked to me.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, politicians obviously would be wise to, take note of secular issues because, like you say, this is a growing demographic, and particularly with regard to the Democratic Party. So it would make a lot of sense for politicians to actually, learn stuff about how to connect with secular voters and so on.
And when you look at the numbers in Gen Z, those numbers are exploding. And the numbers we're seeing now, I don't think are even the tip of the iceberg. I think right now they're saying what they think they're supposed to say, but in 5-10 years, they're going to know who they are. And we're going to see that number from, I think it's 50% now. I think we're going to see 60+%. Mm-hmm. And then their kids are even more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I think it'll almost be like exponential is probably putting it too strong, but there will sort of be like a, kind of a runaway effect that as more and more people become non-religious, it just becomes more and more kind of unusual to be religious. And it'll be, who knows? It's hard to say, but that seems like that's one possibility for how things could go, that it, it just is sort of steadily increasing.
Well, and I also think that with these politicians forcing religion, and it's just this very strict religious interpretation, I think it's actually scaring more people away from religion and making more people, you mentioned militants. There are a lot of militant anti-theists, and I think that has a lot to do with it. I don't want anyone telling me how to enter a building or what my healthcare options are.
Yeah, that's definitely going to have an effect. I mean, how could it not? And we've seen it. I'm trying to think of the other examples we've seen it with. But the idea is like, we've heard it from other people in Gen Z where it's like, I'm not going to be part of a church that tells my friends they're going to hell because they're gay.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
We know that these really toxic beliefs are pushing people away. And I'm curious as to like what it's like then inside the party. Are these? It seems like, I mean, the way you put it, like they're small changes, but for us, they're big changes, right? Getting this recognition, having a platform that says explicitly freedom from religion, that is a big deal for us, for any sort of secular movement. How did this go over inside the party? How did the debates over the platform go? Was it something that was easily accepted, or was there a lot of pushback?
There was, I don't remember there being any pushback, honestly. I think I think that we had worked pretty diligently and had explained our position, and there wasn't any pushback on that change in the Plank language. There has been pushback when we've asked for there not to be a prayer before the meetings. So now we did a compromise on that, where there are the prayer room, there's the secular room, and then there's the nothing room. And you decide where you want to go. And it's not perfect, but it is something. It's not, you guys go sit out in the hall while we pray, or, just do your, write on your notebook, just ignore us. And it's, at least we're acknowledging that there's a space that needs to happen.
And where it's allowed to happen. So, Rachel, what other goals do you guys have for the platform, and what are you looking for in candidates?
So, what we look for in candidates when it comes to endorsements, we have made a decision at this point only to endorse those who are outwardly and out about being secular. That is going to be changing. We are writing an endorsement questionnaire type thing, because we want to be able to endorse and put our power behind them. What we really do is we are standing up for those who have a strong policy that helps the majority of our constituents. So those with a strong LGBTQI plank, those who are going to fight for public education, those who are going to fight for reproductive rights and fight for healthcare, Medicare for all those kinds of things, but really those who are putting Nebraska first. Right now, we are helping basically anyone that wants our help. There are candidates who have told us they don't want our help, and that's understandable. But on the other hand, you don't know how many people in your district are on the down low about being an atheist,
Right. Yes. Yeah.
We know that there are so many people in different communities who fake a religiosity in order to continue being part of their community. So it's one of those things where, I will be honest, I did not expect us to be where we are today for another 2 to 3 years. I was not expecting us to have this much positive feedback from candidates and from different party officials. I had put it on my calendar for 5 to 7 years. And this is year 3, yes. And we have candidates just knock on the door and ask if they can speak to us. Candidates, they're like, are you going to be at this event? Yeah, I'll be there. Can you write postcards for me? I'm definitely going to write postcards for you. They share our posts. They, follow us. And it's, again, not what we were expecting. But I think with the changing demographic, they've had to change.
Yeah. I had a kind of a stupid question for you. What do you mean? Like earlier, you were talking about writing postcards for candidates. This maybe is obvious, but I don't know. What does that mean exactly?
So candidates will give me postcards with stamps, and I write postcards to their constituents saying, hey, so-and-so is running for this position. I think this is a good candidate because XYZ. I think they will represent your area. Thank you. Please vote for this candidate on November 8th, Rachel.
And it's people you know already, or
no? No,
okay.
I have a list of. They hand me the postcards, the labels, the stamps, and I write them out and send them out.
Okay, I see.
I'm guessing
so
you don't do that in Canada.
It's possible that maybe it just goes to show. I mean, yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
it's a very Nebraska nice
politically
thing,
plugged in. Yeah. That's
because
interesting.
you
Yeah.
get a handwritten note from somebody saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, will you vote for my friend?"
Well, you mentioned like intersectionality earlier, and it's like it's a great point that like we're not like it's weird that atheists don't discriminate that way, or even just broadly secularists, and how we're like left-handed people, just kind of end up everywhere. Um, so I tie this into Lincoln Atheists. Is there a connection between the caucus and the atheist group?
No, we are a political group as secular Democrats. Lincoln Atheists is a nonprofit. Nonprofits can only do a certain amount of political work, so I really work hard to keep the two separate. What I do with Lincoln Atheists is we do a lot of community work. So we sponsor a little food pantry. We try to have events. We bring in speakers. We've had Mandisa Thomas come and speak with us a couple of times. We have a roadside cleanup, which I don't do because I am immensely allergic to anything that grows in the ground.
Right.
But,
Yes.
we work hard just to let other folks know, hey, we're here and we're here for you. And also, let's go and hit up the game night down at the local gaming pub. And that's a community. And though I do, as the president of Lincoln Atheists, I will go when there's a bill and I will testify, but I have to be very careful how I approach those things. We can invite candidates to speak, but for example, I could never invite just Democrats. I would have to invite everybody who's running. They don't have to show up, but I have to prove that I invited them in case somebody were to make a complaint.
So it sounds like Lincoln Atheists is more than just social. It sounds like you have some activist bits, like some of that outreach. Is that? I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this, because we've had this discussion with other people. I think we've both lived it and we've been reading about it, where atheist groups start out. They're very, very social. They're mostly about people kind of like finding their people. And then when they reach this later phase where they start to make that turn from inward to outward and either become like activist or political or an outreach group, and there's a lot of resistance to it. Do you find that with these two worlds that you have your feet in at the same time, right? You've got secular Democrats, Lincoln Atheists. Do you see them being completely different spheres, where one is very much political, and the other is and only political, and the other is very much social and only social? Or do they both have this sort of community mindset to them? I can
Really
babble on
question.
if it helps clarify the
No,
question.
there's a Venn diagram and they do intersect. But legally, and we have to be very cautious because, especially since we're an atheist group, people will turn us in if they have just a hint of us crossing that line.
I should clarify here, Rachel. I mean, when I think of like political, I mean like active in the public sphere to assert some form of change, not electoral politics or governmentality.
Yes, there's a lot of overlap. We want to be seen. We want to be able to be recognized and not demonized. We're like the one group that it's still okay to hate.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah.
They hate. Yeah. So it's a fine line, and we have people that go the extreme and become like the militant, which I'm sure you've seen. And then we have the people that want to fade into the background who aren't ready to come out. And so there is overlap. And I will ask folks, hey guys, for example, we know that the abortion, it's all religious. There's nothing about that that's not.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
So I have no problem saying, guys, there's this, we're having a rally. This is the thing going on. And they will show up and we will hand out pins. We will hand out American Atheist posters that say, keep theology off my biology. We'll hand those things out because that is explicitly rejection of the religion infringing on our freedom from religion. I don't do that necessarily as secular Democrats because I know I'm going to be testifying in front of the Senate at some point. But that's something I can get folks involved in. They're excited because we're doing a protest together. And if there's something like that that I know is on the books and we need more people of no faith to be in there talking about, I'll post it. Hey guys, here's they're doing this bill. You might want to go and talk, But we do have a lot of overlap in the membership of the two groups as well. So, sometimes I feel like I'm spamming them.
Right. Yes.
I'm like, hey guys, It's on the page. It's in the discussion group. It's also on this page, and it's also in this discussion group. And it's all from me.
Yeah. I think we're probably going to be releasing this podcast sometime in October. So it'll still be before the midterm elections. So I wanted to get your predictions, if you're willing to be so bold. What is your prediction, I guess, for the midterms for Nebraska, I suppose, and then sort of nationally? What do you think is going to happen?
I think Kansas is going to happen in Nebraska. I really feel very strongly that people are going to turn out in droves and vote for reproductive rights, vote for civil rights, and reject this whole authoritarian.
We need a little clarification, a little background. What's on the ballot in Nebraska?
Nebraska has an election every year. When I talk about civil rights, I'm talking about sending people into our state Senate and sending people to the U.S. Senate, that are U.S. Congress, and because we don't have any Senate races this year, that are going to uphold voting rights, are going to uphold marriage equality, going to uphold what person's right to choose. And I use person, not woman, because trans men, non-binary people, and two-spirit people may also have uteruses. And so for me, it's the tip of the iceberg. Roe was the tip. It's the floor, not the ceiling. They're going to go after all these other things. So we have to make sure that Roe is codified. We have to make sure that state legislatures are also upholding rights. And here in Nebraska, we have on the ballot, we have an ID law, voter ID law, which we've never had a case of voter fraud in Nebraska. It's a problem looking for a solution.
Right. Yeah.
Those are the things that I mean when I talk about civil rights. Is I think we're going to vote blue in a way that I don't think anyone is expecting. That is my hope. That is my prediction. And if I'm wrong, well, I'm probably going to move back to New Jersey.
Yes. Well, what about at the national level?
I think same thing. I think that there is backlash when Lindsey Graham says that they're going to they're going to make it a national ban, you have just fired up, because it's not just people who can get pregnant or people who want to. That's not the only people. The fact that Clarence Thomas mentioned rolling back Obergefell, that we have a lot of people that are looking to basically send us back to the 1940s, and we're not going.
Yeah, right, yes.
Yeah, that's a good
it's
point.
not happening. Yeah.
All right, America, you heard it here first. Blue Wave 2022. It's coming.
Let us hope. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears, as they say.
You mean dog's ears? My dogs.
Yeah.
Dogs.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Rachel, we're going to move on to the lightning round. Very high stakes. There's no wrong answer. There are an infinite number of right answers. It's called Can a True Atheist? And in this, we give you a simple prompt, and you can answer yes or no, and feel free to elucidate as much as you need to. So First one's really simple. Rachel, can a true atheist believe in God?
No.
Okay.
All right, easy. There we go.
Okay.
They're all that easy.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see about this one. Can a true atheist go to church?
Yes. And it's because, again, there's a lot of people who grew up with it, and it's a calming kind of thing. I know a woman in her 60s does not believe in God, but finds relaxation in the tradition and in the pomp and circumstance of it.
Mm-hmm.
She really loves the Catholic traditions. She thinks they're ridiculous, but she finds them calming when she's having a thing. Me, there are things that I do that I grew up with. We had a lot of woo kind of things, so I still have I always have a broom hanging above my door. I don't even know why, but I do. When I'm feeling super stressed, I'm like, I need to burn some sage. It's all mental. For me, that calms me down because that's what we did. That's what centered me as a child. And also, there are the people who can't be out about being an atheist. So they go to church so that they can still be part of their community. They're not ready to say goodbye, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Can a true atheist read a ghost story and get scared by it?
Yeah. I mean, I read alien stories. It doesn't mean that I think they're actually there. They're stories. They're fiction, you know?
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Yeah. What's Halloween like in Nebraska? Is it a big deal?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal. I'm so excited. I have like 3 parties, and it's like the only time I get stoked. I'm like, it's my favorite holiday.
Right, it's gonna be awesome.
I'm going as Miss Marvel this year.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can a true atheist date someone who is religious?
I mean, a true atheist can do whatever they want. If they want to date someone religious, if they want to date someone religious, go for it. Do I think it's going to work? Not my place. But no.
Yeah.
How about this? Can a true atheist be apolitical?
No. Our entire existence is political. Everything affects us. From the fact that the money we spend says "In God We Trust" in the United States, to the fact that our Pledge of Allegiance says "Under God," to the fact that our politicians and our government still puts religion above the secular beliefs that are in the Constitution. If you're an apolitical atheist, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Coming on strong.
Yeah.
Okay. How about this one? Can a true atheist say Jesus H. Christ when they're upset?
Oh yeah. Okay. It's just a lexicon thing. Like I can say oy vey, doesn't mean I'm Jewish. I'm from Nebraska, but if I hear someone say "ope," I know that doesn't. It's just part of the language you grew up with.
Yes.
And finally, Rachel, can a true atheist vote Republican?
Yeah, unfortunately, and they do. There's a whole group of them
in Nebraska.
Oh yes.
Really?
Yeah. There's a large group of libertarian atheists. They have their own group and everything. I'm not giving out the name here. There's a large group, and I always say they hate everything in the Bible except the oppression and the
yes.
So unfortunately,
yeah.
There's actually a Republican who won his primary in Idaho, and he's an out atheist. So.
Oh wow!
Wow! Yeah, in Idaho.
Yeah. In Idaho. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Mormon country.
Yeah.
So.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have some kind of morbid interest maybe in having one of like a Republican atheist on the show, although I don't know that we would ever do that, but it would be interesting learning about what like
a compare and contrast.
Why I think it may be like you said, it is they like the oppression part of religion, but not anything else. Maybe
Well, we'll have to find out. We will, Rachel. Here's the thing: we will take that on, so you don't have to.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, and the truth is I would honestly love for there to be a secular Republicans of America, because I think when it comes right down to it, we probably have more in common than we don't. but what we don't have in common is huge. And in my dream world, we're the bosses anyway, and in 2070 when we win and we're the majority, we're going to still treat people with respect and dignity.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But we're going to go back to e pluribus unum on our money.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes.
That's definitely a big part of the dream. Well, Rachel, I think the secular Democrats of Nebraska are going to be part of that. How do people get in touch with you? How do they find you? What do they need to know?
Well, right now we are redoing our website. The website we have right now, please don't go to our security thing. We're redoing it. But you can find us on Twitter at Secular Dems of NE. You can find us on Facebook at Secular Democrats of Nebraska. You can find us at our link tree, which is where I put a lot of stuff, a lot of articles that have to do with secularism and the changing demographics of the United States. linktr.ee/secular Dems of NE.
Excellent. We'll post that below as well for everybody listening at home.
And we have a lovely shop, including t-shirts that say Dogocrat, and then it says In Dog We Trust, and we have demo cats that are verminators.
Oh, now you're winning me over.
Yeah, I can't imagine who came up with those, certainly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Rachel. This was great talking with you, learning more about secular Democrats of Nebraska. Okay, that was Rachele Walter of Secular Democrats of Nebraska.
Didn't know much about Nebraska before, did you, Nathan?
No, I didn't know.
Did you learn a lot about Nebraska?
I did. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, just at the start when she was saying, I think it's one of the few states that has the multiple electoral votes can go to both sides.
Right, yeah. Oh man, this like the deep cut into like the sausage making part of politics.
Yeah.
That's when it gets good, huh? That's some fun stuff. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an episode where we kind of like lift the veil a little bit. We get that peek behind the scenes a little bit. And it's pretty neat. I enjoy that stuff. I like at least learning about it. Because it's so mysterious to me where these party platforms come from, how they work, what the interests are. We think we know, the story that we're sold is a little bit different, but this is one where like it's neat that you create these strategic alignments inside of a party to achieve specific goals, and you can achieve them. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was interesting learning sort of the inner workings of, like the different kind of caucuses within the party, which each had their own kind of interests, and the way they could put forward stuff. And it's not necessarily a guarantee it gets accepted, but just sort of advocating for different causes.
Yeah,
I think, mm-hmm.
And I liked hearing that, like she posited that the atheists are the most intersectional. Like that's not, it's not like this evil wokeism stuff. That's just like practical politics. That's how you politic. It means like we can reach across to any group and achieve goals. Like we're open to all of these things. And they've got some success, and that's impressive. It's impressive that these groups are springing up, that we're getting secular caucuses inside parties. First in Texas, that's shocking. Second, Nebraska, very unexpected. Although after talking to Rachel, I understand, like, wow, like there's a force of personality there. But that they're getting achievable goals, right? And they're able to communicate things in very human ways, right? Like things like stop marginalizing non-religious people. Because it's for practical reasons, right? that's how that kicks open the door. You're in there, you're with people, you're building solidarity, and you're achieving goals step by step by step. That's awesome. That's how all of these things happen. And it's what the other side has been doing for years and years and years and years and years. Right.
Yeah, right. Yes, definitely. I think uh, I think that it's also, politicians, maybe they don't, maybe they even want to reach out to secular voters, but they don't know, like, they don't know how, or whatever. And it's like, I think, she mentioned a couple of simple things, like talking about freedom of religion and from religion as well, like people of all faiths and none, like adding that in, just stuff that, like, you know it just signals to secular people, like, oh yeah, like you're including us as well. And I think, there wouldn't be any reason why like a politician really wouldn't want to do that. I don't think. I mean, unless, unless they're really courting the sort of hardcore Christian vote or whatever. But just like simple stuff, and then once they realize it, then it's like, oh, okay, um, it seems obvious, and then yeah, then you've got their ear for other things too. So
Yeah, that's a great point, Nathan, because like one of the things we noticed in 2020 was that, like, you look at the non-religious as a block, they're huge. It's now about 30% of the country, and it votes solidly Democrat. I'm talking like 80 to 90%. So for anybody to, like, even if they are religious, if they want to win, there's a massive amount of power there that they have to go to. They have to court the nuns. They have to court people who are godless. That's important. We're an important block. And this is a case where we see that power being leveraged, right, to get our demands, which are not unreasonable. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's like our demands are beneficial for other people too. Like, I mean, it's not as though atheist groups are trying to get power so that they can force atheism upon everyone else. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, we really wouldn't want that. I mean, to happen. So it's ensuring, freedom of and from religion.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
especially you look around the world today. There are a couple places where things are happening where you notice a certain theme. Right?
yeah,
Like, you look at
yes,
Iran, right? Like, which side
yeah,
are the atheists on? Look at um,
yeah,
I just saw Putin making his annexation announcement, and they pan the crowd, and you see all these guys wearing funny hats with crosses on them.
right,
Like,
right,
which side are the atheists on? We know which side they're on, right? Like,
yeah,
it's the political dynamic is the same here, right? If you want greater freedom, you want your individual liberty, you know where it's at. We're not the ones making crazy impositions denying people medical care.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right,
So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
and I mean, still, we need to be kept honest, but it's yeah, we're not going crazy here.
yeah. And I think it. Well, what do you think about because the group it's a secular group rather than an atheist group, and she said religious people are certainly welcome to join, and probably there are religious people involved. And I wonder if that makes more sense rather than having an explicitly atheist caucus or something like that.
Yeah. Well, the goal being secularism, and I mean, the 2 points here is, and this is something we've heard before, is that there are very strong, very powerful reasons why religious individuals and religious groups would want to keep government and religion separate. There are very obvious reasons. So there are plenty of religious people who want to maintain that wall and think it's vital, and it does protect religion from government interference, which is something that secularists and atheists support. Right? We're not militant atheists. We personally aren't militant atheists. We're not out to use state power to abolish religion. Right? So, like, yeah, we want to preserve that firewall as much as possible. Um, the other thing about that, though, is like and Rachel's a great example where she's there are these two spheres, that she recognizes, where there is this sort of political, in terms of electoral politics, in terms of statecraft, in terms of policy, in terms of creating laws, deciding where funding goes. That's done in this very secular way, and then there's this very social part that's atheistic, and that's where atheists get together and do atheist things. And that's like, we didn't explore that cleavage very much, but it makes sense, and we can see it and we understand it in the same way we would understand someone who is very, very pious and religious at home in the church, and then in public, not a fundamentalist, not preaching, not
Yeah. Yeah.
proselytizing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we like, it's a great demonstration of how these attitudes are balanced, right? Where do you have the anti-religious rant about the Bible, and where do you have
Yeah.
a discussion
That's
about
right.
appropriateness of public displays, right?
Yeah. That's
They're
true.
two different realms, and it's amazing that she lives it. She lives it so clearly, and like she's able to define, like, well, I can't do this here, and I can do that there, and these two worlds should
Yeah.
never mix.
Right.
Right? It's a great
Yeah.
balancing act.
Yeah. And I think also partly, I think she was saying, there's partly just sort of legal or tax reasons or whatever for that too. And I think she was also saying that atheist or sort of or secular left wing groups need to be especially careful, or more careful than maybe than right wing groups too. So yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of that. There's all those considerations. There's the legal, financial, ethical, moral, but it's how do we balance that life? Life is messy. Life is complicated, but it doesn't mean it's complete disorder. There are ways that not only do we impose this order on it, but ways that we can structure it to maintain some clarity. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, and the stuff, I mean, talking to people who are super involved at this level is so awesome. And the way she talks about how she deals with things like, um, when a bill comes up that she doesn't like, I love hearing that. You can hear more about it that's in the bonus stuff. I think she talks about her communications with Kamala Harris. That's good stuff to know. And she makes it sound so easy. And really, it's just people getting together, working for a common cause. Many hands
yeah,
make light work, Nathan.
yes, yeah, yep. Um, yeah, and I think, yeah, especially at the more sort of local and state levels. I imagine Nebraska is a fairly small state too, so um, individuals can have greater impact, perhaps.
Well, Nathan,
Uh,
you're from Canada, so you know about how small things can be very, very big.
that is a good point. Yes, yeah, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, any final thoughts on it, Nathan?
Uh, no, just that it was really nice chatting with Rachel, and yeah, we hope that her prediction for the midterms comes true.
Yeah.
With,
And I hope she keeps succeeding with what the agenda they put forward. It makes a lot of sense, and it seems so attainable and so practical when she discusses it. It's really great having her on. Great conversation. Um, yeah, check out the Secular Democrats. Check it out in your state if you happen to be a Democrat, if you happen to be an American. And as always, like, if there isn't one, just form it, found it, just show up. That's the thing that's one of the main themes that comes across with everybody we talk to. It's like, well, I just went, just showed up, and people called me.
yeah, yeah,
Rachel has that
it
a
was
lot. She's like, oh yeah, this guy
exactly.
called me. It's like, what are you talking
Yes,
about? Yeah. And then he said, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Well, great. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yep. All right. Yeah, so we want to, I guess, say thank you to our Patreon supporters and to the
Always,
audience
of course.
for listening. Yeah, and supporting us.
Yep. Keep the tweets coming. Keep the ideas coming. We love hearing your feedback. Love hearing from you guys. As always, like if you got some spare money lying around, you shake out the couch cushions. You find a couple bucks in a winter jacket that you're breaking out for the season. Run on over to Patreon. Help us out. If you can't do that, hey, we understand. But like and subscribe. Every like helps. Every subscription helps. That way you don't miss a single episode. And I think that's it. Hey, Nathan, we've since moved homes.
Yes.
We're now produced in association with Atheist United Studios.
We are. Yes,
So
we're
check
glad
them
to
out.
be a part of that. Yes.
Yeah, if you're in California, if you're in the area, or you feel you're feeling generous, check out their website. Throw them a few bucks as well. They'd love it. They'd appreciate it, and they'd put it to very good use.
Yes.
And I think, is that it? It feels
That's
incomplete somehow. Anyone else we need to thank?
I think we're good.
All right. All right, everybody. Until next time. Bye-bye.